On my first day back home for the holidays, my mom pushed a young, hot guy into my arms. She gave me a knowing look, murmured, "You know what to do," then hurried off to her weekly bridge game as if she were passing me a secret mission. The guy was tall, probably around 1.85 meters, with sharp features and a quiet smile that made him look harmless. He even greeted me with a polite, "Hey sis," like a good kid. He seemed too innocent for his own good, which only made me misunderstand even more. I flashed my mom a quick hand signal, pulled him inside, locked the door, and led him upstairs. He watched me do it with a confused, low hum that sounded far too tempting. I hushed him, took his warm hand, and guided him up the stairs. His hands were soft, surprisingly soft for a guy. He followed obediently, although his brows creased like he was trying to figure out what was happening. The confusion turned into panic the moment I pushed him onto my bed. He wriggled nervously and asked, "Sis, what are you doing?" I simply pinned his hands beside his head and whispered, "What do you think? We're just skipping a few steps." He protested, cheeks burning red, legs pushing, hands braced on my shoulders. I patted his face, told him to save that energy for later, then covered his mouth before he could argue. The second I kissed the hollow of his throat, he froze. Then everything flipped. All that innocence evaporated, and in one swift motion, he pinned me instead, like a wolf waking up hungry. My mom is the type who banned dating all through school but started nagging about grandkids as soon as I stepped onto my university campus. In college, she pushed classmates. In grad school, she pushed coworkers. And after graduation, she was introducing me to every eligible bachelor within 10 kilometers. Nothing ever worked out. Either the guy was a walking red flag, or I was too shy to make a move on the rare ones I actually liked. Mom said I lacked courage. She loved telling me how she won over my dad back when he was the village heartthrob, bragging that she basically dragged him home by the collar. If she had not made the first move, I would not exist, she always said. Learn from me, if you like him, claim him. So when she gave me that wink before leaving me with this guy, I thought I was finally doing what she always preached. When he flipped me over halfway through, I even congratulated myself for finally being bold. By the time we were finished, my legs felt like pudding. I collapsed on the bed, unable to lift a finger. He sat beside me, looking like he wanted to speak, but did not know how to start. I shut my eyes and drifted, comfortable and exhausted. Then my mom's voice thundered from outside the door. "Chloe, where is Leo? Wasn't he here for English tutoring? Did he leave already? Why didn't you tell him to stay for dinner?" I shot upright so fast the bedsheets tangled around me.
"Leo?"
Leo, the chubby kid from next door, the one 3 years younger than me, the same boy I tutored all through school. The one my mom mentioned a few days ago, saying he needed help for his GRE prep. I stared at the man in my bed. He was not the boy I remembered, not even close. Somehow he had gone from round-faced kid to ridiculously attractive. I pointed at him, voice shaking.
"Leo?"
He nodded with wide, innocent eyes. "You are here for tutoring?" He nodded again. I almost fainted. I thought he was a blind date. I genuinely believed my parents had saved a premium catch for me. Turns out he is just the hardworking neighbor's kid who lost weight and became dangerously good-looking. He looked at me with a soft, hurt expression. "You didn't give me a chance to explain." My heart lurched. Mom's footsteps creaked closer, so I locked the door in a panic. Leo began getting dressed, his back smooth and toned, marked with long red scratch lines. He looked extremely composed for someone who had just been tossed into this chaos. "Why lock the door?" he asked. "Let's go out together. Be brave, right?" I flicked the back of his head. "Since when are you so responsible?" Then I shoved him toward the window.
"Go, quickly."
He stared at me, offended. "Sis, this is the second floor. Do you want me to break my legs?" The door handle rattled. Mom called my name, demanding to know why the door was locked and where Leo had gone. I blurted out one excuse after another, claiming he had finished tutoring and left, and that I had locked the door, so she would not barge in while I napped. She softened instantly and went downstairs. That was Leo's only escape. I begged her to go buy roast goose from the shop near the village entrance, dragging the conversation until she finally left on her e-bike. I shoved Leo's clothes into his arms and tried to push him out the door. He planted his feet, looking strangely upset. "Sis, that's it?" My brain was fried, so I snapped, "You already ate me. What more do you want the goose to?" Then I tried pushing him again. He called me by my full name, voice tight. "Chloe King, are we really pretending nothing happened?" I was broke and embarrassed, so I mumbled an apology, saying I only acted that way because I thought he was a blind date. His eyes turned red, like he was about to cry. I panicked, grabbed 2 steamed buns from the kitchen, stuffed them into his hands, and told him to eat on the way home. He stormed off without looking back, and only then did my nerves settle. I almost collapsed from relief. Then I noticed the mess on the sheets. My joy died on the spot. I pulled the bedding off and started scrubbing like my life depended on it. My mom returned while I was hunched over the basin. I yelped and blurted out that I had stained the sheets by accident. She barely reacted, just waved it off and told me to stop panicking. Then she added, "Teach Leo properly tomorrow. And do not wait for him to come here. You go to his place in the afternoon." My brain short-circuited. Go to his house. She lectured me about how much Leo's father had helped our family over the years, how we had to return the favor, and how a brilliant student can still fail the GRE without proper guidance. There was no arguing. She finished with a firm, "Go after lunch." My mother never says something she does not mean. The day after lunch, she shoved my old GRE prep books into my hands and marched me out into the cold, insisting I tutor Leo. I had zero face for it. I just wanted to hide, scroll through my phone somewhere sheltered, and go home. But fate had other plans. Halfway across the field, I ran straight into Aunt Lou, Leo's mother. They had done well in construction and moved to the city, only returning for holidays, which apparently agreed with her. Aunt Lou looked younger than I remembered. From across the field, she called, "Chloe, your mom said you were coming to tutor Leo. Get inside, it is freezing." She grabbed the books from me like I was her own and hauled me to their house. Inside, she yelled up the stairs, "Leo, Chloe is here." Leo appeared at the landing with one hand in his pocket, lips tight in a line. He looked down at me and said, "Sis, come up." Everything hiccuped. The memory of yesterday slammed into us, and our eyes darted away at once. Aunt Lou did not notice us spacing out. She scolded the boy and insisted we get to the heater. I forced myself to follow, and Leo came down 2 steps to take the books, then walked me to the study and set out chairs, one for each of us. On the desk lay an English workbook and a messy pad of notes, faint handwriting underneath. I leaned in to read, and before I could make out a single word, Leo snatched the pad away. "Fine," he said with a look that might as well have been, "Don't stare." "Did you come specifically to tutor me?" he asked. "Specifically?" I'd been practically kidnapped by his mother. I shook my head, honest and blunt, because I did not want him to overthink anything. He went quiet. His face flushed red. He fiddled with his fingers, then stole glances at me through his lashes. My heart did a weird little hop. I worried he had read meaning into my answer, and he might have. There was no tidy way out of that moment, so I shut my mouth and tried to focus on the book. Aunt Lou popped her head in with 2 steaming cups of soy milk, smiled, told us to study hard, and left. The room swallowed the sound again. "Sis," Leo said in a voice suddenly small. I slammed the workbook open and said, loud and fake confident, "Okay, question 1. My eyes involuntarily slid to his collarbone. He had unbuttoned the top of his shirt because of the heater, and a red mark sat there, darker in the center and fading at the edges, the kind of mark that made my face go hot with embarrassment. He straightened and buttoned up, crimson spreading through his ears. I could not concentrate. The smell of his cologne, the warmth of the room, the flutter in my chest, it all gnawed at me. We drank cup after cup of soy milk, probably to stall. After the 3rd cup, he shook the pitcher and complained, "Why am I getting thirstier the more I drink?" I almost spat milk everywhere. A few drops escaped my lips, and before I could reach for a tissue, he had one in hand and wiped my mouth, fingers gentle. His eyes darkened, and for a heartbeat his hand stayed near my cheek. Then someone's fingers gripped my shoulder, and when I looked up, Leo was leaning toward me, lashes trembling, lips parted, shirt unbuttoned again. Everything felt like it was sliding toward a line we should not cross. The door flew open. I toppled out of my chair in a panic. Leo helped me up, buttoning his shirt with an annoyed, breathless, "Mom, why did you not knock? We were studying seriously. You scared us." I did not know whether Aunt Lou had seen anything. My face was blazing. I poked my phone, rearranged the workbook, and finally invented an excuse. "My pigs are hungry. I have to go feed them." I bolted. Walking home, I replayed every second and convinced myself Aunt Lou had seen everything. Parents never miss anything, I decided. They're only pretending to be oblivious. I arrived home sweaty, and true to her word, Aunt Lou came the next day with gifts, warm smiles, and a grateful speech. Aunt Lou had brought what she called a small token of appreciation for my tutoring, but the gifts read like a small treasure chest. Premium bird's nest, fancy skincare. My parents refused to accept such extravagance, but Aunt Lou insisted and chatted pleasantly while patting Leo on the arm. "Hurry, and let your sister teach you," she said. Leo stood straighter, said, "Troubling you, sis?" And we all watched the two women begin a very public negotiation about whether we were a match. My mom was brisk, saying I was getting close to 27 and had no courage. She needed to meet good men before someone else grabbed them. Aunt Lou gushed that Chloe was beautiful and too young to wait, and hinted that maybe Chloe already had someone she liked. They argued nice little circles until Aunt Lou forced us to exchange WeChats so we could study later, then left. Once Leo was gone, I cornered my mother. "We are not going to Grandma's today," I said. "You," she scolded, poking my forehead. "Don't get confused by Leo's face. The prettier the boy, the more unreliable," she declared, especially in construction, where handsome men are chased by women even when they are 50. My dad grumbled some half-hearted defense of Leo, but the verdict was clear. My mother did not think Leo and I were a good match, no matter what Aunt Lou implied. My holiday turned into an endless carousel of blind dates, courtesy of my mother's plan. Auntie Wong sent Mr. Financial first, a slick-suited man who pronounced Starbucks like it was a spell. He asked about my height as if my mother's stature determined his future sons. He tossed around phrases about aligning granularity and made me feel like I had wandered into a surreal interview. Then Leo appeared at the table behind us, leaning back with a lazy grin. "Sis," he said, "Annie Wong's pick is not right for you," he teased. I lost whatever composure I had left. He slid his chair next to me and, half-joking, said, "At least this one should be better than me, right?" The comment landed with more weight than he intended, and I flushed. I tried to steady myself, declared I liked men who were more manly, and patted his cheek. Leo nuzzled my hand like a cat and murmured, "I thought I proved my manliness the other day, remember?" I fled because of course I did. He followed, unhurried, herding me with long strides until the next match, who arrived with the due family rules printed and laminated. He asked me straight out whether I accepted a traditional wife checklist, and I almost reached for the paper to photograph it when Leo snapped up the document, announced he was my brother, and then, with deadpan seriousness, laid out his own absurd requirements for any suitor. Dowry of $50,000, a 2,000-square-foot condo in my name, buy me a car, he said with a straight face, and the bewildered man left in a hurry. Leo sat back down and opened the menu, commenting that the man had not even ordered food. "Sis," he said, "does Annie Wong have a grudge against your family? Why feed you such weird pics?" He smoothed his shirt and suddenly, very formally, introduced himself properly. "Hello, Miss King. I am Leo. Pleased to meet you." I laughed at his pretend formality and he leaned forward, pleased. "Sis," he said softly, "you look really pretty when you laugh." I rolled my eyes, shielded my face with a little stiff pride, and asked him if he was trying to flirt with me. He grinned and asked, in that half-innocent way he had, whether I preferred words or money as pickup tactics, and how much I was willing to spend to charm a woman. It is ridiculous, it is awkward, and it is exhausting, but Leo's presence made the whole vacation a strange, sweet, chaotic mess. Leo never needed lines or gifts, he only had to exist. People would pay just to look at him. He waved from the top of the ski slope, board strapped on, dressed in white and blue. He stood tall, confident, and impossible to ignore. "Sis, watch me flirt with you now," he called out. He snapped on his goggles, crouched, then launched himself forward. He carved through the snow like something out of a commercial, sprang off the ramp, spread his arms, spun twice, rolled into a full loop, then touched down with perfect balance. Shouts exploded across the hill. Even the guys were yelling that he was insane, in the best way. Leo slid to a stop at the base, lifted his goggles and cupped his hands around his mouth. "Sis, am I cool? I do not care what they say. I want your answer." The cheers around us shifted to teasing whistles. Everyone turned to see what I would say. My smile kept trying to break free, my pride lighting up like fireworks. I pursed my lips and said, "Nope, little brother." I tilted my chin toward the side. "Now, that is impressive." A shirtless guy stood in the snow flexing through a photo shoot. His teeth were probably chattering, but he kept posing like it was summer. Probably recording something for the internet. Honestly, respect. Leo glanced over. A moment later, he stomped toward me with his board tucked under one arm. His expression said he had seen enough. "What kind of decent man takes off that much clothing in public?" he muttered. "Looks cheap. Not marriage material. Not like me. I keep myself proper." I gave him a blank look and let my eyes drift back to the other guy's abs. Leo immediately pressed a warm palm over my eyes. He stood in front of me, lips pouting, eyes full of wounded pride. Sis, you are still staring. Does he have something I do not? It clearly bothered him. That night, he knocked on my hotel door wrapped in a comforter, like a giant sleeping dumpling. Sis, the hallway heater is broken. It is freezing, he complained. He lifted both hands toward me, inviting me to check for myself. I tapped my chin and let myself play dumb. Is this how actors feel when a lead knocks on their trailer door? No wonder people get drunk on power.
Feel what part exactly? I asked.
A blush jumped across his face. He lowered the comforter, and his abs showed through his thin shirt. My hands, obviously. He squeezed through the doorway and closed it behind him with one lean of his shoulder. His eyes glimmered, and he smirked. Sis, no one taught you not to open your door for strangers. Somewhere above the continent, an invisible fault line cracked open. 3 seconds before my brain caught up, Leo whispered very quietly. Sis, when I tease you like this, does your heart speed up too? Mom called at the worst timing possible. The ringtone alone said she would keep dialing until I answered. I rubbed my forehead, opened the call, and immediately heard the interrogation. Why have you skipped all your blind dates? And what is this rumor about you being with a younger man? Tell me now, are you with Leo? My eyes drifted to the person lying beside me. Leo slept with one arm around my waist, lashes soft, mouth curved in a satisfied smile. Waking up to that face could heal any mood. But reality waited. I let out a silent breath. No, I am with Lindsay. Leo tightened his arm, even though he was not fully awake. The smile faded. When I hung up, he opened his eyes, looking wounded. Sis, you are planning to take advantage of me again, he muttered. Planning to leave me hanging again. He threw off the blankets, collected his clothes with annoyed movements, then paused halfway across the room. He looked back, sleepy eyes glossy with hurt. My chest squeezed. I could not bring myself to tell him my mother probably did not approve of him at all. I grabbed his hand, shoved 200 into it, and said, Go buy something good to eat. I will find you in 2 days. Priority 1 was dealing with Mom. Except before I could, my period came early. Maybe the snow activities had pushed my body too far. The cramps were vicious, and each step felt like someone had stabbed a hot needle into my abdomen. Mom leaned against the doorframe, watching me roll around in pain, with a suspicious look. I groaned, Are you really just watching? No painkillers. No hot drink. Nothing. She frowned. That is strange. Did you not just have your cycle recently? Twice in 6 weeks. I froze. Good news, she had not guessed the real reason. Bad news, she dragged me straight to the doctor. She lectured me the whole way about young people hiding illnesses. Irregular cycles could mean inflammation or cysts or who knows what else. I wanted to crawl into the floor. I was fine, but how would I explain that? Once the bleeding stopped, she hauled me to a traditional medicine clinic for supplements. The elderly doctor took one look at me and asked, Are you sexually active? I stared at the floor. With Mom standing right beside me, how could I answer? My mom poked me. Well, answer her. The doctor raised an eyebrow. You are 26. It is normal. I whispered, No.
Probably.
Maybe. Under their dual stares, I folded like a wet noodle and confessed everything. Every detail. By the time we left, I was stocked with herbs for cramps, and my mother was still processing the shock. I was about to go home when I saw Leo rushing in. He had no coat, just a sweater, and his expression was a mix of guilt and panic. He engulfed me in a hug. I am sorry. I am so sorry. This is my fault, he said against my hair. Something this serious happened, and you were too scared to tell me. You went through it alone. I am late, but I am here now. He straightened, eyes firm with resolve. He turned to my mother. Auntie, forgive me. I should have told you earlier. I am willing to take responsibility as a future husband and father. My mom's face darkened like a storm rolling in. She knocked him lightly on the head.
Dream on.
You have 30 minutes. Explain yourself or get out. I worried he was cold. Did you bring your identification? Leo admitted he had rushed out so quickly he forgot his ID, but he brought 3 credit cards. I sighed from the bottom of my soul. Driven by hormonal chaos, I pinched his backside. Leo sighed back. Sis, I drove here. My own car. Since that accidental encounter, my mom seemed to silently approve of Leo. He practically glowed with approval. He used to complain that his girlfriends never gave him a proper title, but thankfully, he had a reasonable mother-in-law. I was baffled. Why had Mom warmed up to him so quickly? The next time my period arrived, she asked, "Did that boy at least bring you some brown sugar water today?" My dad, however, was less impressed. Watching Leo carry a few baskets of oranges, he scoffed. "That is nothing. When I was courting your mother, I carried manure for your grandmother for 3 years straight." I glanced at the red marks on Leo's shoulders and felt guilty. Mom immediately told him to set the baskets down and went to fetch some oil to massage his bruised skin. Dad rolled his eyes. "So delicate." Mom smacked his shoulder lightly. "Enough. Strength means nothing. Being kind to Chloe is what matters." "I think Leo's a good kid." "Honest," she added. I groaned. "Are you two playing good cop and bad cop?" "You don't understand. Leo used to glare at you like you were stealing something, and he's so handsome, I was worried he might be toying with you," Mom explained. Dad looked offended. "You two didn't work out before. Now you're together, and I feel like my treasure is being stolen. Before, I worried you'd be alone. Now, I worry someone will treat you poorly." I decided this was the most emotional my 26-year-old heart had ever felt. My parents' love was overwhelming. Leo patted my back, grinning. "Uncle, Auntie, don't worry. I'll bring a proper dowry. I'll marry into the family." Dad wiped a tear. "Good boy. Should have said that earlier. But carry these oranges for 3 years first." With Dad's approval, Leo was unstoppable. He sprinted across the fields carrying what felt like 100 pounds of oranges. Later, when it was time to slaughter the New Year pig, he was the first to dive in. In worn work clothes, a cigarette dangling from his mouth, gripping the pig firmly, he looked rugged and heroic. When the work was done, he dusted off, acted cool like a hero in a movie, and started walking home. Mom tugged him back to eat. He sat down with a bowl in hand, smiling at her. "Auntie, smells amazing." I couldn't believe it. Thick-skinned and sly, he had everyone fooled. Leo, a fox in human form. Using English tutoring as his excuse, he came by almost constantly. I asked, "Were you really here for English?" He grinned mischievously. Yes and no. I pressed him again while we carried heavy loads. "Are you even taking the GRE?" "Nope," he admitted casually. He kept talking as we worked. I never wanted to. It was just an excuse to avoid taking over my dad's business. I already have level 8 English. Would I really fail? But now I have you. Maybe I can start a family sooner. So, I chose the business path instead. I realized the truth and kicked him lightly. "So, you've been using me for tutoring all these years?" He grabbed my foot and smirked. "So, sis finally realizes? You're not getting away."